Hey everyone, it's Mike here from SteelGreen Manufacturing, and today we're going to go over the process of installing the hydraulic lift kit on one of these machines. Alright, so looking at the components that you're going to receive for the hydraulic lift kit, starting over on this side will be the lift arm assembly. That's going to come with the mounting brackets for the front and the rear with the hardware. The two hoses that are going to run that lift up and down. Then we have the next big piece of the system, which is the lift valve itself. That'll also have a bracket with it and two mounting bolts, and then two hydraulic hoses that run to feed it as well. If you get this system for a 36 or 42 model, you're also going to receive two smaller front wheels. These are going to be used because you need a little smaller wheel to get clearance when they spin around for this center of the arm. Down on the end of the table here, I have the tools that are going to be required for this installation. Starting up here with the biggest wrench is 1 1/8", two 15/16", an 11/16", a 15 millimeter, and a 9/16". Standard 3/8 impact or a ratchet, if you don't have an impact, will be just fine. A 9/16 deep well socket and an 1 1/16 deep well or shallow socket will be fine for that as well. A few zip ties and some cutters to clean up the hoses at the end. And then that's all it takes. Okay, so starting off, we're going to mount the lift valve handle portion itself. To do that, we've got two carriage bolts here that we've got two longer ones that we're going to replace with to be able to mount that valve. So we'll take a 9/16 wrench, and I'm going to loosen the speed bar knobs so that we can get this pushed back and give us a little bit more room for just dropping down in here to loosen these up with our ratchet. All right, now we'll get our lift valve and then mount it through these same bolt holes with the longer ones. Just get the one bolt started. That'll make it a lot easier to get that bottom one in. This one you can reach from underneath. They'll spin down pretty easy, finger tight, because they're the serrated flange nuts. They're not a nylock, so you can get them all the way down tight, and then you just have a couple turns with a wrench after that to tighten it up. All right, so now we're good to take the two hydraulic lines that are hooked to the lift valve. You'll have one that's going to be a little longer than the other. The longer one goes to the inside port, and that one is going to go down to the hydraulic pump, the left side hydraulic pump. The outer hose is the one that's a little bit shorter, and it'll go down through the same hole here, but across and over to the hydraulic valve and the dash for the hopper motor. So we can take these, and there's going to be this cutaway here. You want to go through here, and then you'll just come around from behind and feed in their separate ways. Once again, inside hose down to the pump, longer one, outside hose, shorter one, across to the valve and the dash. All right, So now we're good to come around the back side of the machine with some rags and a 15mm wrench. And we have, like I mentioned, the shorter hose will come across, and it's going to replace this connection on the bottom of the valve block for the hopper motor system. So we'll take the shorter hose, and we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. You will get a little bit of oil that's going to leak, because this block and this hose has oil in it, though it is very high up in the system, so it's above the level of the tank, so it's not going to continue to run. But that's why I'll just take a rag and hold it kind of near this fitting. Just get it loose with your wrench. I'm going to go ahead and take the plug out of the line, our new line, because we're going to reuse this plug and we're going to put it into that hose when we take it off of here. So just go ahead and use the rag to catch any the oil that comes out. Pop that off. And that didn't hardly leak at all. Then we could put this hose on there. Go this way. There we go. I think it helps to actually just take a piece of rag, because it'll give you a little better grip on that, because it's oily, so it makes it a little difficult to start those sometimes. But once you get started, usually you can just wiggle and get it going. We'll put that plug in here. And that one's done. All right, so moving down to the lower hose connection, the longer one from the lift valve. This hose is going to be replacing the hose here on the right, which is the other end of that hose we just disconnected up at the valve. A real quick note on basically how this system works here on your machine. This smaller little piece on top is an auxiliary pump. You've got your main two pumps for your wheels left and right, but this little one we use to run all the accessories that are hydraulically driven. The hopper motor, a hillside assist system, and then the plow valve as well. So on this, the right-hand port is the pressure going out. Right now, the pressure is coming from here straight up to your hopper motor valve. What we're doing essentially is we're taking that pressure and we're going to go feed the plow valve first, come back out of the plow valve, and then come over and hook back to the hopper valve and feed the hopper valve secondary to the plow system. So this hose we're actually going to leave hanging in here, so that if you ever take the system off completely, the hose is already just in here. We'll use these little caps and cap off the ends of it, top and bottom, and just let it stay in there zip tied up. So it's always there if you want to completely remove the system. So we're go ahead and good to take our 15mm wrench again. Just gonna crack this fitting loose. Once you get it loose, you can thread it off by hand, but once again, you'll get a little bit of oil drips. I'm just gonna tuck a rag in here around that. And I'm gonna go ahead and remove my plug from this one too, just so we can use it over. Just get the plug out, and then this one's finger loose now. So we can disconnect this, kind of put a rag around it and put it to the side for now. Just sit it over there. Take this and get it started. Usually start pretty easy, just give them a little wiggle. Didn't leak much at all. I'll take a rag and use that because it'll help me grip the fitting. There we go. Just come hold it straight. Tighten that fitting back up with your 15. Go. Then I'll take the hose that we disconnected and put our little cap in it. Okay, so now we'll just tuck this in here. You can throw a zip tie on that and let that hose just hang out in here for future use. Same for the other end of it, which is up at the top. And now your valve itself has oil, and that's the only mess you'll make putting this on. All right, so next we're ready to take the lift arm assembly itself and slide this under the machine and get it hooked up. You've got front mounting brackets and rear mounting brackets. This front portion is going to sit over top of the main frame tube, and then these brackets will come like this and sandwich it from the bottom side. You'll tighten up those. The rear part, instead of being on top of the rear tube down there, it'll be underneath, and this bracket is going to come down from the top through these holes here, and it will sandwich it. So this will be on top. So the back part's under the rear tube, the front part's over the front tube. Sliding back under here beside the machine, I flip the wheels out to where they're sideways so I can get in here from the side. All the newer machines are going to have, probably mid 24 and newer, are going to have this exhaust shield that starts here and wraps up and goes real close to this bar. So we're going to need to take this off real quick just to get it out of our way for those clamps that hold the lift arm assembly to this part of the frame. So all you'll need is a 3/8 wrench or 3/8 socket and loosen up these 4 bolts. Once you get them loose, you'll be able to hold up on the shield and unthread them. There's no nut on the back side since they go into a weld nut, so you don't have to hold the back side. Makes it a lot easier to do. I'll hold this side up, take out this one. Now it's going to be kind of only supported by 1 bolt. Now I'm gonna roll around to the other side real quick so I can reach that easier. All right, so got this last bolt over here. I'll just kind of hold up in the center of my thumb, unthread that, and then now your heat shield's gonna be loose, and we just need to pop this out of here. Depending on the clearance here, you may just have to take a flathead screwdriver and put it right here to pop this around that shield, just like that. So then that'll come out, and then just sit it back here for now. So now you have plenty of access to this bar. All right, so now we've slid the lift arm back up underneath the machine. I just kind of draped the hoses out the front, out of the way for now. And you're gonna need to lift the frame tips here up and let them rest on top of that front tube, because we will be using these little brackets here to sandwich this on top of the tube. It goes on top in the front, and the rear, it goes under the tube. So you'll start with the front here. And when you take one of your short brackets, a carriage bolt, the carriage bolt is just going to go straight through the tip of the lift arm frame. And then you could take one of your brackets here, just start that one, and then we'll do the same for the other side as well. Just get the nylock nuts started. a little bit so we can get the other started. Okay, so now that we have one of the carriage bolts started in the front on both sides, and the back of the bracket will swing up now, up to the rear tube. We can take our rear now, and it's got the tail that points outward. Take those carriage bolts, put that around the tube, and get these started. It should be square enough now that we can get both of these started. Got both those started, and we'll do the same process on the other side to get both of those started. Okay, so now that we got all 4 bolts on the back brackets, they're just loose. So to get these rear bolts in the front, you may have to loosen the front nut up just to have some extra play in this bracket to get it to come down enough, to square it up enough to get that back bolt through, so that you could put the nut on there. So now got both of those on, and you got one last bolt to put in the other side. So I'm following the same process. I'll loosen this front one up some, just so we can square up that bracket enough to get this bolt to come through. And you sometimes have to wiggle the arm as well to get that to fall through the bracket. Possibly just loosen it all together so that you can get them both through. Here we go. And once we get them both started, then we can shimmy around the arms so that we can get everything tightened up and flush on the tube there. There we go. Now we need our 9/16 impact. We can now go ahead and start tightening up these bolts. Since they are carriage bolts, you want to hold the heads to keep them from spinning. You want to bring them up evenly on the front and back. Try to keep the bracket square. While doing this, make sure everything is centered on the chassis. You might notice a slight bow in the brackets. That's fine, just ensure you don't over tighten the bolts. Now we can take the ends of the hydraulic lines and feed them up through the back over the hopper shield. There is a cutout. Just push them through one at a time. You can zip tie them together to keep them out of the way. All right, so now that we've got the 2 hydraulic lines from the lift arm assembly underneath fed up here to the top of the machine, we're good to get these hooked up to the lift valve itself. On this lift valve, we're going to be using these 2 ports on this side that are directly above the longer bottom, because that section of the valve, it has the up and down and the float position in it. So that's a good way to identify which set you're going to be using. It's always going to be top and bottom ports for whatever you're doing. This one here is your up and down and float, and the hose ends are male female, so you can't hook them up in reverse, and even if you did, all it's going to do is change the operation of the handle one way versus the other, so it wouldn't hurt anything at all. These are a flat face connector, so they're just going to push on there real easy. No leaks. And same thing if you disconnect them, no leaks. You just slide the collar back, pop the thing apart. And now we're good to run this lift arm, start the machine up and down, and then check our oil level on the unit, because we're going to have to add some oil to the tank when this thing runs and fills up the cylinder and the lines. Okay, so last step on this process. This machine is not a 36 or a 42 inch model, but I can clearly show you on those machines, the 36 and 42, you get a 13 inch front wheel set for the machine, and you have to change these out due to the clearance here. So there's room with the 16s on the 46 and 52 models, but on that 36, 42, the chassis is a little narrower. So that causes us to have to change these out. So this is when you get out that 1/16 socket and 1/8 wrench to change these wheels out with these bolts. Just take a floor jack and you can put it right underneath there on that back cross member, one side at a time, to change those out. All right, so there you have it. This machine is now outfitted with a fully functioning hydraulic lift system, and it's ready for attachments like our rake or snowplow. We'll be making videos on that as well, so be sure and check them out on the social media or at our website at SteelGreenMFG.com.